I have been watching and following UFC and MMA since 2011 when Brock Lesnar fought Alistair Overeem. Brock Lesnar came from wrestling, so that seemed interesting to me, and seeing how Alistair Overeem defeated him so easily was something that really reeled me into MMA, and I've been watching it ever since. And in this 15-year time period, I have never seen a UFC pay per view be this bad. I have never seen it. You have the main event of this fight card be a flyweight, which traditionally doesn't tend to happen. They're usually co main event, with a bigger weight class being the main event. And on top of it, you don't have it against even the number one, number two contender. He's fighting the number 10th ranked guy, Steve Ersic, which I had never seen or heard about. He's got only three UFC fights. This is frankly ridiculous, I have to say. And again, I'm a huge UFC fan, huge MMA fan. I'm sure this guy's great. I wish him all the best in the world. I think Pantoja is a good fighter as well. But there's just it's not a great fight. It's not a great pay per view. The co-main event, Jose Aldo against Martinez. Martinez, a guy that I've seen fight maybe a couple of times, but he's not a guy that should really be in there for Jose Aldo's potential retirement fight. And then it circulated that what they wanted to do was Jose Aldo against Dominick Cruz, which that makes a lot more sense, legend against legend. The fact that that fight fell through, like this card's just a complete travesty. Like the fact that this is even a pay per view, like I understand that no one is forced to buy the pay per view. Like no one's forced to pay for it. I'm not gonna buy it. Um, but it's a travesty. It's a very bad card, and it sucks. It sucks because the other four pay per views of the year have been really good, but we have been subject to a lot of terrible fight nights to stack those pay per views. But then now we get a few weeks of bad fight nights, and then it culminates with this terrible pay per view to then have a few more weeks of terrible fight nights as well. And the only light in the horizon for us MMA fans right now is June 1st, UFC 302, Islam versus Poirier. And even that card, it's just top heavy. It's got a good main event, good co main event. That's it. Like it doesn't have anything else. And then we're going to be a few more weeks before we get the Saudi Arabia card, which is a very good card. But just a lot of bad fight nights. This is a terrible pay per view. And I speak this with my First Amendment rights. Whoever wants to buy this pay per view will do so. I wish the UFC the best. I know that I wish these fighters the best. But it's just not a solid card, and they know it. They know it. It's unfortunately falling through to a level that they should frankly just make it free this pay per view. Because if their intended co-main event was Jose Aldo versus Dominick Cruz and that fell through, and their original main event was Alex Pereira versus Hill, and that had to be moved to UFC 300 because Dricus didn't accept the main event of 300, then this card's just falling apart completely, and it's just not a good card, and I'm a little bit frustrated by it, by the lack of MMA content in general, which is actually really UFC content in general, because the reality is MMA is UFC, whether everyone wants to admit it or not. It is what it is. PFL's best fighters are with the UFC right now, including Kayla Harrison. Um, Michael Chandler used to be in Bellator. Now he's with the UFC. MVP used to be in Bellator. Now he's with the UFC. The only guy that the PFL has that is of any interest is Francis Ngannou. And he hasn't fought since he signed with them over a year and a half ago. And is still not scaled to fight for many months down the line. And if he had his way, he would rather box rather than fight in the PFL. So MMA is UFC. And unfortunately, the last couple of weeks and months have been very lackluster except UFC 300, of course, in terms of UFC and MMA content. And it's a little bit frustrating for me. So tell me what you guys think. Like and subscribe.